Welcome to the day late, the Cafcass, day 5, the Cafcass, the interpretive machine. Now, let me say something here now, like I do, as I am. This is going to make two groups of people react very differently. If you are a parent watching this, you're about to feel like someone's just finally switched the lights on. If you work in Cafcass and you're watching this, you already feel that tightening in your stomach, don't you? Yes, because you know this is true. And you also know you were never supposed to say it out loud. It's never supposed to be written down. Cafcass, and this is it, this is the point. Cafcass does not exist to understand families. It exists to absorb risk, compress chaos, and export decisions that won't come back to haunt the system later. That's right. That's not an accusation. That's a function. Cafcass is not a conscience. It is not a truth engine. It is not a moral arbiter. It is a buffer, a pressure valve between unpredictable human behavior and institution that cannot afford to be wrong after the fact. And everything Cafcass does makes perfect sense once you accept this point. And here's the first thing. Nobody tells parents, because if they did, the entire performance would collapse. Cafcass is not listening to what happened. Cafcass is listening to how defensible your future behavior will be if something goes wrong. That's the test. Not, is this parent right? But if this recommendation ends badly, can we justify standing behind it? That's the question. That question is always there, even when nobody, and I mean nobody, admits it, especially when nobody admits it. So when you sit in front of a Cafcass officer and you pour your heart out, when you explain carefully, honestly, and painfully what's really been happening, they are not hearing your truth. They are running a simulation, a future simulation. They are imagining a serious incident. They're imagining a serious incident, a complaint, a headline, an interview review, a report written about them specifically, about them and how they've, and how they are silently asking themselves, if this version, which version of this parent keeps me safest? That's the machine. That is why emotional congruence matters, but not in the way most people think. It's not about empathy. It's not about warmth. It's not about authenticity. It's about signal alignment. If your emotion doesn't match the category that they've already placed you in, you become a problem. You become dangerous. Not morally dangerous, administratively dangerous, because you force the machine to hesitate, and hesitation is a risk. So if you're calm when they expect distress, you're suspicious. If you're distressed when they expect calm, you're volatile. If you're nuanced when they expect a simple story, you're exhausting. And exhausting parents don't get backed, not because they're bad, but because they're hard to write about cleanly. And here's the part that really makes people inside the system squirm. Cafcass does not remember parents as people. It remembers them as categories: high conflict, safeguarding, emotional harm, control, alienation, resistance. And once you're categorized, you are no longer being heard. You're being processed. Everything you say is filtered through that narrative and that category. And if you keep forcing the officer to rethink the category, you don't look insightful. You look like a liability. So the system smooths you, not the truth. That's why people say they didn't listen. They did. They just couldn't afford to follow you. Now let's talk about the word nobody. Nobody understands, but everybody weaponizes. This is the word that nobody understands and everyone weaponizes. And this is it. It's insight. Insight does not mean I admit wrongdoing. Insight means I behave in a way that reduces future institutional exposure. That's it. You can deny allegations and still show insight. You can be innocent and still lack insight. You can be lying and still demonstrate insight beautifully. Because insight is not about truth. It's about forecastability. Can the system predict you? Can it rely on you not to explode later? Can it write, the parent engaged appropriately with professional guidance? That sentence is gold. Actually, it's pretty rarer than gold. It's pretty like fucking platinum. So here is the question that splits people in two. And most people never cross this line. Not what actually happened. Not who am I really, but am I safe to stand behind? Not safe to the child, safe to the system. If Cafcass had to justify limiting you later, what would they point to? Your tone, your rigidity, your refusal to soften language, your insistence on being right? Because understanding this, Cafcass is not deciding your character, it is deciding how it will survive your case. And that's why this feels so brutal when you finally see it. Because you can realize you haven't been losing because you're wrong. Because you've been losing because you're hard to translate. You're too complex. You're too honest. You're too principled. You're too emotionally mismatched to the box that you were put in. And the system doesn't reward complexity. It compresses it. Hopefully you've got something from this. Because today's practice task, no comfort, no ego. This is not reflection. This is not exposure. Write answers to these questions honestly, right? If your case, my case ended badly, what parts of my case, my behavior would be quoted to justify it? So where's your behavior? If your case ends badly, what would they criticize your behavior? How has your behavior contributed to that end result? Yeah, that's one thing. And where does my emotional presentation create discomfort for institutional decision-making? Which parts of my story resist categorization? And how does that make me unsafe to recommend? Do I signal predictability or principled unpredictability? If I were a Cafcass officer, would I want my name attached to recommending me? If that stings, good. That sting is clarity. Answer them honestly. The line you can't unsee. If you've really heard this, you now understand something most people never do. Cafcass is not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is that nobody told you the design spec. But now you know. You can stop begging to be understood and start deciding how you want to be understood and how you want to be processed. Tomorrow we go into containment, I think, and how the system freezes movement and why interim becomes permanent and how people disappear into procedural limbo without a single decision being made.